You think you know Star Trek First Contact? Think again. Tom Hanks was supposed to invent warp drive. The Millennium Falcon, yes, that Millennium Falcon, fought the Borg. And Patrick Stewart got so angry reading the script that he summoned the writers to his New York apartment for an intervention.
I enjoy it too. I've discovered that I can really enjoy this.
But here's the one that really got me. Alice Krig's contact lenses were so painful she could only wear them for 4 minutes before her eyes started streaming. Those tears you see on screen, completely real. Today, we're exposing 16 hidden truths behind Star Trek First Contact, including a costume that caused actual blisters and why one role swap saved the entire movie. Let's get into it. 1. Tom Hanks was on the wish list to play Zefram Cochrane. Picture this: Tom Hanks, fresh off back-to-back Oscar wins for Philadelphia and Forrest Gump, inventing warp drive. It almost happened. Paramount floated his name to play Zefram Cochrane, and here's the thing. Hanks was actually a massive Star Trek fan. Co-writer Ronald Moore confirmed Hanks made their wish list from day one of development. But producer Rick Berman later admitted it was never serious. And honestly, director Jonathan Frakes said casting a star that big would have been a mistake. Think about it. Cochrane needed to look like a cynical drunk crawling out of post-World War III Montana, not a glamorous movie star. James Cromwell was perfect precisely because he didn't have matinee idol looks. He could play a selfish alcoholic who only built the Phoenix for money, and make you believe the transformation. Speaking of transformations, wait until you hear what Alice Krige went through. 2. The Borg Queen's silver contact lenses were absolute torture for minutes. That's how long Alice Krige could keep her silver contact lenses in, before the pain became unbearable. These weren't soft contacts. They were hard lenses worn over soft lenses. Double the discomfort, and they gave her tunnel vision so severe she could barely see what was happening around her. Every close-up of the Borg Queen's face. The crew had to work fast, really fast, because Krieg was genuinely suffering, and those tears glistening in her eyes during filming, not acting. Real tears from real pain. Here's what's wild, though. She channeled all that physical agony directly into the performance. That creepy, unsettling energy the Queen radiates, part of it came from genuine discomfort. But the contacts were just the beginning of her nightmare. Stick around for number 9, because what happened with her costume is even worse. 3. Michael Dorn's famous one-liner was a late addition. Assimilate this. 3 words, one massive weapon, Borg everywhere. That line wasn't in the original script. Michael Dorn felt Worf was getting sidelined in the battle sequences. His Klingon warrior needed a hero moment, something audiences would actually remember. So he pushed for it. Whether it was improvised on set or added late in rewrites depends on who you ask. But Dorn's instinct was dead on. That line became one of the most quoted moments in the entire film, right up there with Picard's, "The line must be drawn here." Fans have been referencing and parodying it for nearly 3 decades now. Sometimes actors just know what their character needs. 4. Patrick Stewart demanded his role. Be swapped with Riker's. This one changed everything. The original script had Commander Riker as the action hero, fighting Borg on the Enterprise while Captain Picard went down to Earth to babysit Zefram Cochrane. Patrick Stewart read that script and was, to put it mildly, not happy. His argument was simple. Picard was assimilated by the Borg. He was violated by them. He hates them more than anyone in Starfleet. Why would he sit on a planet giving speeches while someone else fights his greatest enemy? Stewart summoned writers Brannon Braga and Ronald Moore to his New York apartment. His message was blunt. I should be battling the Borg. Moore later said they'd already written at least 2 drafts before making the swap. Stewart specifically referenced the Next Generation episode, Starship Mine, where he's alone on the Enterprise fighting enemies. He wanted that energy. And you know what? He was absolutely right. Can you imagine this movie with Picard on Earth the whole time? Now here's something the casual viewer definitely missed. 5. The Millennium Falcon appears in the opening battle. I'm not joking. Han Solo's ship is in this movie, fighting the Borg. John Knoll, the ILM visual effects supervisor, worked on both First Contact and the Star Wars special editions. So he did what any self-respecting effects artist would do. He snuck a little Easter egg into the opening battle. That freshly created digital Millennium Falcon model, he slipped it into the Sector 001 space battle. It's small, usually flying above and behind the Borg cube. Star Trek fan magazines reported it after release, and if you've got a DVD player with zoom and slow motion, you can actually spot it. Star Trek and Star Wars together at last. The internet debates were probably legendary. 6. The Borg Queen's entrance took 5 months to complete. You know the scene. The Borg Queen's head, shoulders, and steel spine descending on cables, then attaching to her waiting body. Director Jonathan Frakes called it the signature visual effect of the entire film. It also took Industrial Light and Magic 5 months to finish. Here's how they pulled it off. Visual effects supervisor Scott Yeager built a rig to lower Alice Krige on set. They fitted her with a prosthetic spine over a blue suit so ILM could digitally erase her lower body later. But here's the tricky part. To make that spine look right after her legs disappeared, Krige had to extend her neck forward at an unnatural angle. John Knoll was obsessive about making sure she didn't look like she was on some mechanical rig. He wanted her to float, like she was being carefully assembled. The result? One of the most unsettling villain entrances in science fiction history. And speaking of that entrance, the digital wizardry behind it was groundbreaking. 7. A digital bodysuit was morphed with real footage. For 1996, this was cutting-edge stuff. ILM created a completely digital version of the Borg bodysuit for the initial lowering sequence. Then, and here's where it gets clever, they morphed that CGI image back into the real footage of Alice Krige. The animated claws? All digital, built from a highly detailed computer model. But the real challenge was Krieg's face. The director asked her to show what he called the strange pain or satisfaction of being reconnected to her body. Agony and pleasure, simultaneously. When Krige finally saw herself in the mirror with the full costume and contacts, everyone on set gasped and stepped back. That's when they knew the Borg Queen worked. 8. The film's budget was $10 million more than Generations' money talks, and First Contact had more of it to say. The budget hit $45 million, a full $10 million more than Generations got. That extra cash made a massive difference. The opening space battle alone required ILM to design multiple new Federation starship classes just to fight the Borg cube. The art department budget approached $2 million by itself. Production designer Herman Zimmerman teamed up with John Knoll and makeup artist Michael Westmore to create the Borgified Enterprise sections. Their goal? Make audiences feel like they were being fed to the Borg, deck by deck. Previous Star Trek movies had been criticized for looking like extended TV episodes. This one finally looked like a real blockbuster. Now remember when I said Alice Krige's suffering wasn't over? Here's where it gets rough. 9. The Borg Queen's costume caused blisters and couldn't be removed. Alice Krige earned every bit of her Saturn Award for Best Supporting Actress, because filming nearly broke her. That tight Borg Queen costume, it caused blisters all over her body. The first bodysuit was made of hard rubber, incredibly painful. They had to scrap it and build a second version from foam rubber, which was only slightly more tolerable. And here's the really fun part. The suit fit so tight she couldn't remove it to use the bathroom during those long shooting days. It gets worse. For her distinctive head look, Makeup artist Michael Westmore used something called gaffquat, a concentrated hairspray applied with a spoon. It hardened so much that Cryge said it felt like having a saucepan clamped on her skull. She later said she hoped to never encounter that material again, the things actors endure for iconic performances. 10. The original script featured Picard having a love interest before Patrick Stewart's apartment intervention. The Earth storyline was completely different. Instead of Lily Sloan as Cochrane's assistant who gets beamed to the Enterprise, there was a local photographer named Ruby, and Picard was supposed to fall in love with her while helping rebuild the warp ship. When Stewart demanded the role swap, that entire romance got scrapped. Honestly, thank goodness. Writers Moore and Braga refocused the planetside arc on Cochrane himself, showing how the ideal future of Star Trek came from a flawed, drunken man rather than a love story nobody asked for. The change kept the movie tight. Borg threat, Picard's vendetta, first contact with the Vulcans, no distractions. 11. The bizarre, sweet Jesus censorship. This one still baffles me. The film shows Borg drilling into eyeballs, limbs melting, mass assimilation, genuine body horror. TV censors were fine with all of that. But when Zephram Cochrane sees the Enterprise through his telescope and yells "Sweet Jesus" in pure awe, several TV airings, particularly on Sci-Fi, clumsily muted or censored that single line. Body horror? Approved. Religious exclamation during a moment of wonder? Apparently too controversial for broadcast. Network standards are weird. 12. The film almost featured Q. John Delancey's omnipotent trickster nearly made it into this movie. Early drafts included Q because the writers wanted to pack in fan-favorite next-generation elements. Sounds great on paper, right? Problem was, adding Q to a story already juggling the Borg and time travel made everything way too complicated. When producer Rick Berman looked at those early scripts with Moore and Braga, they realized serious work was needed. Q got cut entirely. Ronald Moore later put it simply. It didn't make sense that Picard, the one guy with personal Borg history, would never confront them directly. That realization drove all the major script changes. Sometimes, less really is more. 13. The Enterprise E sets were modified from Voyager. Here's a behind-the-scenes secret that saved the production a fortune. Most of the Enterprise E interior sets, aside from the bridge and main engineering, were actually Voyager sets, modified and redressed. Sickbay is the most obvious example. The layout barely changed from Voyager's sickbay. Some fans argue this makes sense in universe. Starfleet probably uses standardized designs across their ships. But the real reason was pure practicality. Building entirely new sets would have destroyed the budget. Most casual viewers never noticed. And honestly, this kind of creative recycling has been a Star Trek tradition since the original series, when sets were constantly redressed to represent different ships and locations. If it works, it works. 14. The USS Defiant was almost destroyed. The original script killed Worf's ship. During that brutal opening battle, the Defiant was supposed to be completely obliterated by the Borg cube, blown to pieces. Then Ronald Moore, who also worked on Deep Space Nine, put his foot down. "You can't kill my baby!" The Defiant was his creation. He wasn't about to let a next-generation movie destroy it, so they changed the dialogue. Instead of obliteration, we got "prepare for ramming speed," followed by confirmation the ship was badly damaged, but salvageable. Sometimes it pays to have the right producer in the room. If you made it through all 16 facts, you're a real one. Hit subscribe and drop a comment. Which behind-the-scenes detail shocked you the most? Was it Alice Krieg's 4-minute contact lens torture? Patrick Stewart summoning writers to his apartment? Or the Millennium Falcon secretly fighting the Borg this whole time? Let me know. I'll see you in the next one.